Hi everyone, I'm Patricia and I'm the founder of the World's Corner, and it's Mental Health Awareness Month. And we just thought it would be a good time, especially with everything that's happening right now. I think it would be good for us to check in and to find ways in which we could maybe share some advice and just kind of help everyone that's dealing with all this stress and anxiety that's going on. I think, especially with entrepreneurs, we are dealing with our personal fears and anxiety. And now you add all of this, pandemic and all this global situation that we cannot control. And it's just adding more stress to everything that we do. So I'm very excited to have Stacy here. She is the founder of Pink Sage, and she's also a mental health advocate. So I would love to get her, advice and just tips to help us go through all of this that we're going through right now. But thank you so much, Stacy, for joining us.
Oh, thank you, Patricia. I love being here and I love what you do. I love the World's Corner and how you empower women, and it's just awesome. So thank you for having me. But yeah, hi everyone. I am Stacy. I am the founder of the Pink Sage. I work as a speaker and a coach to help empower women in their love lives, in their careers, and also in their mental health. So a lot of what I do is giving talks or organizing workshops that help women feel like they can learn the tools they need to be their best coach and their best mental health advocate in their life and in their career and in their love life. So I love coaching women about online dating as well. I actually struggled with online dating for 6 years, and I switched up my process and then ended up meeting my husband 6 weeks after switching up my process. I met him on Bumble. And yeah, I've just been doing this work ever since. And I love helping women and connecting with awesome women like you.
I love it. And I think right now, like I said, we're all dealing with this, it's this shared experience, right? Like everyone is dealing with it, but we all deal with it so differently. And I think it's so important for us to kind of just slow down right now and check in with ourselves, with our feelings, and just try to be open and honest with how we feel. So I think it's so important, and I love what you're doing and trying to support women that way, because for me, for example, I'm come from a culture where it's not so common to talk about your mental health or to, even just thinking about it as a process, or it's a whole different concept or a new concept to me. So it's so important right now to share and to just create a space for us to share it. So tell me, from your personal experience, why is it important that we have, Mental Health Awareness Month, or, why is it important right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. So really, mental health is always important and essential. It's really just, your base and what you should come back to. Because a lot of times I feel like as women in particular, and then especially as entrepreneurs, we don't check in with ourselves, like you were saying. Like we need to take a breath. We need to take a minute to ourselves and ask, and truly check in, like, how am I actually feeling? Like, is this anxiety from what I'm doing, or is it from the messages and the things that are going on in my mind that I'm replaying over and over? And so it really helps to check in with yourself. And I feel like, we're always pushing ourselves to keep going and going, but that can quickly lead to burnout. And, a lot of women experience that, and a lot of women, encounter burnout because we are the primary caregivers. Yeah. We are amazing wives and friends and sisters and, daughters. We are all these things. And so a lot of responsibility gets put on us. And it's a lot of behind the scenes work, really, that I don't think a lot of people recognize how much of a toll it can take on you. So checking in with yourself, having practices that you can come back to that are your self-care or mental health practices, I think that's definitely essential in, creating a life that is sustainable to all the work, the wonderful work that we do as women and as, like I said, daughters and friends and sisters and all of that.
Yeah, and I think I shared that story with you before, where I moved back to the States a few years ago, right? And I went through so many different changes. I went through a very painful breakup, to moving to a new apartment, to moving to a new country. So I came back to Atlanta and I started a new job right away. Everything happened in a month, less than a month. And so many different changes, like professionally and personally. And so I think it's taken so long for me to kind of like readjust and to get to where I am right now, because I think I didn't stop to check in with myself. I think I just kept going and going and going. And I think society kind of tells you that that's okay, that you just keep going,
Right.
that there's nothing, you don't have time to grieve or to just think if this is what you want. And so I think that's definitely one of the factors, or one of the reasons why it's taking me, okay, now, finally I feel like, okay, this is me and I'm feeling more myself. But I think I wish I would have just slowed down a little bit or taken time. So I think it's so important.
That's so true. And like just what you were saying about society, no one's going to give you permission to stop. Okay. Right. No one's going to like say, oh, you look like you need a break. Like 0 people are going to say that to you unless they're like maybe your mom or your best friend. So you have to be in charge, right? Like you have to take control and say, I know what I need. I'm in charge of my mental health. I know I need a break at this point. So I'm so glad that you were able to like recognize that in yourself and know that's what you need.
It's a process. And I think, like you said, having a support system too, like I'm very lucky I have a great support system and friends and family that I feel very comfortable talking about these kinds of things, but not everyone does. And so that's why it's so important to create that space right now. So.
I agree.
Stacy, tell me, so as an entrepreneur, you're also an entrepreneur, you're a business owner. Tell me, what are some of the challenges that entrepreneurs face when it comes to, mental health specifically?
Yeah, so I feel like specifically as an entrepreneur, it's just me and my business. Like some people have, maybe a few other coworkers or maybe a staff of 10. Usually as an entrepreneur, you have a smaller crew with you, or it's just mostly you. And for me, I feel like a lot of times I put a lot of pressure on myself because I work as a coach, I work as a motivator, I'm a speaker. Living a positive life is very important to me. But at the same time, that puts a lot of pressure on you when you're the marketing professional, you're your sales department, you're your tech, your CTO, you're everything. Yeah. And you feel like you always have to be on. Yeah. And, really, you are setting yourself up for disaster if you don't recognize that you can't always be on. 0 humans are on all the time. And, the way you treat yourself and the way you talk to yourself should be in a loving, understanding, kind way so that, you can say, you know what, I do need a break, or I should take like a 10-minute breath break or a 30-minute lunch where I'm not looking at my phone, or, I should stop being on my computer after 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. or whatever limit you give yourself, whatever boundary you put in place. Because I think it's funny that, we don't talk to ourselves like we talk to other people. We're harder on ourselves. And, that can be a motivating factor, but it can also be damaging because, if you saw your mom or your sister or your best friend running themselves into the ground, never taking a break, only sleeping 5 hours a night, not drinking water, like you wouldn't look at them and be like, you should do more. You're not doing enough. You wouldn't ever say that to them. You would be like, you need to take a break. Like,
Right.
you need to take a breath and let me help you. And that's the other thing, like you were saying, asking for help. Like,
Yes.
sometimes we feel like as entrepreneurs, we have to do everything ourselves. We can't ask anybody for help, and we can't reach out when we need it. And that is so far from the truth. The
Mm-hmm.
more we tell ourselves that we're alone,
Yeah.
then the more alone we're going to feel. And I'm telling you, every time that I have begrudgingly reached out, because I'm guilty of it too,
Yeah.
I have been met with nothing but understanding and compassion and really useful help that people want to give to me. So,
Yeah. And it's so true. I see, for me, the last few months, I think I've thought about this whole thing with the business and where do I want to go with the World's Corner and uh, professionally too. And I think my main word that came out of all of this has been collaboration. And
yeah.
I'm telling you, like, it's been, of course, a difficult time, with everything that we're going through, because it's not easy. But at the same time, I feel like I've been able to connect with so many people and collaborate with so many people in ways that I never even thought about. Like what we're doing now, like I've been so focused on one thing, and then all of a sudden it's just reaching out or talking to other and see, okay, this is something that I can do. So I think for me, like, it's so important now to recognize that, like you said, like collaborating and reaching out, just seeking out people's help because they're willing to help you and willing.
Yeah. And I love that you reached out to me about this. Like, that's what I'm saying. That's what I love. Like you were saying, collaboration, partnership, women supporting women. It's so essential. So I love that.
It is. What is it? Collaboration over
Competition.
Competition. Yeah.
C words. What is it?
Let's see. So when you think about like mental health, I know there's so many different aspects, so many different things that we can do. But what are some of the tools that you recommend, especially for entrepreneurs, because you're living it yourself too. Yeah. So what are some of the tools and resources that you can share that maybe can help with stress and anxiety?
Yeah, I love that. I have so many tools that I use. I call myself the self-care queen, because if there's a self-care activity that, people talk about, I have tried it. Okay. Yeah. I have tried energy work, breath work, yoga, meditation, walks, HIIT exercises, cycling, like drinking more water, eating well, like whatever that self-care, taking baths, whatever it is, I have tried it and I have done it. So I would say my favorite ones are breath work. Okay. So I like to do, a pranayama, like a soothing breath work exercise, but I also think there's a lot of value in an active breath work exercise. And I recommend, a different teacher that I use. All this is listed on my website. I have a whole page that's dedicated to, self-care, mental health resources, career resources. So it's on my website at helloPinkSage.com. And it's under career and mental health resources tab. But I recommend breath work. I recommend yoga, moving your body in some way. So I also like to do walks. I like to take dance classes. So I like to shake my booty a little bit to Beyonce, like Lizzo, all those things. And then, just drinking water. I know everybody says that, but truly, like, it's really, really helpful. And, a lot of times you can have headaches from dehydration and you're like, oh, I'm so stressed I have a headache. In reality, if you would have drank like 2 or 3 cups of water, like you probably wouldn't feel so bad.
I love that you mentioned breath work, because I was recently introduced to like a healing circle, and we have a class today this evening. So after this I have that, but a friend of mine introduced me to it, and it's so amazing. Like I feel, so heavy sometimes, or so tired, and I'm telling you, 1 hour of that, and even like throughout the week, it's just it feels detoxing. Like it feels like you're you're letting go of things, and feelings, and it helps so much. So I love that.
So
Definitely.
true. Yeah.
So Stacy, one of the things that I think right now so many people are talking about mental health. Obviously, it's the Mental Health Awareness Month, and there's so many like a movement, I think, of people being so open to share and to talk about how they really feel. But how can we become better advocates, like mental health advocates, not just now because it's May, or, to continue that trend?
Yeah, and that's a really important question, because I feel like the best way to be a mental health advocate is to be vulnerable yourself and to let people know when you're actually having a bad day.
Yeah.
And let people know when you're not okay with what's going on. And letting people know when you're tired and you don't feel good. Because we keep pushing and pushing and pushing, and that doesn't do anybody any favors. And so when people, whether subconsciously or consciously, when they see you taking a break or talking about how today's not so great and you need some help, it subconsciously gives them permission to say, you know what, I don't feel that great either. And, maybe they'll be more open, or, they'll take that opportunity to actually talk about how they're truly feeling. So there's that, saying where it's like, oh, how are you today? Okay, but how are you really doing today? And asking and checking in with people and yourself.
I love that. Being vulnerable is it's so key, and it's so hard. It's really, really hard to like open up. So, but I love that, it's a way of trying and to make the whole community and the whole world better while you do it. So it's a great way, a domino effect. I love it.
Yes.
And then you mentioned that you're the self-care queen. So tell me, what are some of your best self-care recommendations? What do you have? Tell us.
Girl, how much time do we have? I will say again, breath work, like you mentioned, yoga, walks. One thing that I didn't mention before, meditation.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think meditation is just like sitting by yourself, just like thinking of nothing. And I'm telling you, that's not how I meditate anyway. Like maybe some people do that, but I do like active meditations where I listen to like positive mantras. I do breath meditations. It's really about, true self-care, I feel like, is doing what is best for you in that moment.
Yeah.
So I almost got burned out on self-care. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but I was going from like a yoga class to a meditation to taking a bath I felt like I had to have this list of relaxing things I was doing.
Yeah.
And in actuality, that was stressing me out because I was trying to do too many things, right? And what I really needed to do was just sit on my couch and just zone out for 30 minutes, maybe watch a show. And again, a lot of people say, well, that's not self-care. But I'm telling you, whatever you need in the moment is true self-care. Yeah. And so if you need to take a break, if you need to cry, if you need to drink some water, if you need to stop talking to someone who's annoying you, take a break, Yeah. You don't have to keep pushing and pushing and pushing through, because that's not true self-care, and that's not going to help your mental health. You actually need to take the breaks you need to take. So,
and I think it's so much about being honest about how you feel and what you want to do, like understanding what you really want. I think it's so important, and doing it, because sometimes you might understand, but maybe you're afraid of people judging you, or whatever society is telling you. So it's really, really hard. But I love this. These are great, and I think I love having this conversation where it's just creating that space to share. Do you have any final thoughts or anything that you'd like to share before we leave?
Well, I just want to thank you again for doing work that empowers women. And I also want to say, again, reiterate, I can't say it enough. I try to mention it in all my workshops and talks and things I do, but you are your biggest mental health advocate. You are also your greatest healer. And like you were saying, it takes work to get to that point to know I am in charge of my life. I am in charge of when I take breaks and when I feel good and when I don't feel good. And so getting to that point and trusting yourself and trusting your intuition, I think is the most important thing. So
I love it. Trust yourself. That's the best message ever. Well, thank you again, Stacy. And I'll make sure to include your website and tag you and everything so people can find you and find all those awesome resources. But thank you again for joining us.
thank you.